Hello everyone, welcome to LICD lecture number 23C. Today we are going to derive the output pulse width expression for a monostable multivibrator. So in the last lecture we have seen in detail the working of this op-amp based monostable multivibrator. So let me describe in brief now. Let me just adjust the amplitude over here slightly. Yeah, now it's better. So this is my op-amp based monostable multivibrator, and this is a modification over the stable multivibrator. So we are applying over here the triggering pulse, the negative going triggering pulse, which is of 10 millisecond duration, which is going from 0 to -5. Let's consider, and this is applied to a differentiator circuit formed by C2 and R4. We have seen in the working in the last lecture, lecture number 23B, and the outcome of this differentiator circuit is a negative going pulse of a very short duration, that is 1 millisecond. It's called as a negative spike, and this is fed to the diode, and this is going to the non-inverting terminal of the op amp. Okay, now to the inverting terminal of the op amp we have R3, C1 and diode D1, and the output is obtained over here, V out. Okay, so this is a monostable multivibrator. So basically, it will have one stable state, and other state will be output stable state, and other state will be quasi stable state. So let us analyze the waveforms in short. So this is the first one is V of E, which is the purple color waveforms. So this is going a negative going pulse from amplitude 0 to -5, and its duration is very short. It is around less than around 1 millisecond. Okay, if you work out with these numbers, you will get around 1 millisecond duration. So in today's lecture, we our main focus is in deriving this pulse width T. So this T is my pulse width of my output, which I obtained over here, and this has a duration. This pulse width has a height of plus Vsat and minus Vsat. In our case, we can consider it to be plus minus 12 volts. Now next is the waveforms available at point node number C. So this is not the capacitor waveform, but these are the waveforms available at this node number C. So we have this waveform has a positive and a negative value, positive of plus beta Vsat, that is around plus 6, and minus beta Vsat as minus 6 volts. So it's ranging from plus 6 to minus 6. Okay, and we have a capacitor voltage. So at point number B, we will be having the capacitor charging and discharging part. So over here, initially we see that we have a diode voltage VD1, which is around zero point 0.7. We have seen that in the theory why it happens. And then whenever the output goes low, the capacitor starts, charging, or we can say charging towards the negative VSAT value, which is around -12. And then again after some time, once the pulse period goes to output pulse goes against to the positive VSAT value, it starts charging, and it should charge up till plus VSAT. Okay, so these are the waveforms. Actually, this is the capacitor waveforms across the capacitor C1, which here we have shown in the orange color. So here the positive value is around zero point 0.7 volts. It's clamping it to zero point 0.7 volts, and for negative part it's going up till minus beta VSAT, that is around -6. So it won't increase beyond this -6 or minus beta VSAT value. And again, whenever the diode D1 is on, it will clamp the voltage across the capacitor to zero point 0.7. That's why here it is zero point 0.7. It cannot increase to beyond zero point 0.7. That means the capacitor cannot charge beyond this VD1 value. Okay, so let us focus our attention in deriving the output expression now. Okay, I think I'll keep the waveforms on this side and I'll present it on the right hand side, the derivation. I think that will be better. Okay, let me adjust the screen now. I think I'll make it around 15. Yeah, I think these waveforms are clearly visible now. And let me focus on the derivation part. Okay, I think this is also fine. Okay, so we are going to derive the expression for the pulse width. So this is my pulse width T for a monostable multivibrator. So from the output waveform, we observe that a negative spike is generated at the output during a quasi-stable state. So a negative pulse basically. So this is the negative pulse which is generated during the quasi-stable state. Okay, so the pulse width t is determined from the exponential waveform of Vb. So this is my Vb actually. So this is my exponential waveform. So as you can see, it's closely changing with respect to what is happening at point number B, node number B, which we have seen earlier in the working. So we have to concentrate on this waveform, and accordingly we'll derive the expression of the pulse width t. Okay, so basically we'll concentrate on it on. So the voltage across the capacitor as a function of time is given by this formula, that is Vb of t. Basically we are considering the point as Vb. So if I can show you over here, at this point we are talking about Vb. So this is nothing but the voltage across the capacitor C1. So that is what we are discussing over here now. So let us focus our attention over here. The voltage across the capacitor is given by the formula Vb of t is equal to Vf, which is the final value, plus Vi minus Vf into e raised to t divided by the time constant. So here the time constant is R3 into C1. Now why R3 into C1? So the capacitor charges uh, via the R3 resistor. That's why the time constant is R3 into C1. I hope that this point is clear. Okay, let us come back to the waveform and the derivation. So over here, we can see that the capacitor reaches the final value, should reach the final value of minus Vsat. So that's why Vf is minus Vsat. And over here, we have Vi, the initial voltage across the capacitor is Vd1. So that is what we are observing over here. Okay, now next we will substitute these values in the above equation. So instead of Vf we'll substitute minus Vsat, and instead of Vi we'll substitute plus Vd1. Now Vd1 is the diode voltage, so let me go and show it to you. So this is the diode voltage Vd1, which is around 0.7 volts theoretically. Okay, so let us move forward. So after substituting, we'll get Vb of t is equal to minus Vsat plus Vd1 minus or minus Vsat into the bracket close e raised to t upon R3 into C1. So if we rearrange the term, we'll get equation number one, which is given by Vb of t is equal to minus Vsat minus bracket open minus Vsat minus Vd1 bracket close e raised to minus C upon R3 into C1. Okay, so these are the equations which we are getting. Now, from these waveforms, at small t, at time small time equal to capital T, which is the period over here. Okay, Vb of t reaches a value minus beta Vsat. As you can see in this waveform, this is the point which we are talking about over here, right? So whenever the time reaches the capital T time period, over here we can see by dotted line we are reaching over here. The Vb of t, which is the voltage across the capacitor C1, reaches a value minus beta Vsat, and the output switches from minus Vsat to plus Vsat, as it is evident over here. Okay, so whenever the t reaches this capital T period, the output will switch from minus Vsat to plus Vsat. And this is what we will do now. Let me just reduce it a little further, the width of it. Yeah, now it's fine. So Vb of capital T, now we are substituting small t with a capital time period. So Vb of capital T will be minus beta Vsat. That is what we are equating it to equation number one, and we get the expression minus beta Vsat is minus beta Vsat minus or minus Vsat is equal to Vd1 minus or minus Vsat bracket close into e raised to capital T divided by R3C1. Okay, so we arrange the terms over here. We take this denominator, take this term over here in the denominator. So we have beta of minus Vsat minus of minus Vsat divided by Vd1 minus of minus Vsat. Okay, is equal to e raised to minus t upon R3 into C1. So we take the natural log on both the sides. So after taking the natural log, we get minus t upon R3 into C1 into ln of this entire expression we get. Minus beta into, beta into minus Vsat minus of minus Vsat divided by Vd1 minus of minus Vsat. Okay. So the expression of t over here we are getting it as t is given by, so this is the time period t. So output pulse width t is given by R3C1 into natural log of VD1 minus of minus VSAT divided by beta into minus VSAT minus of minus VSAT. Okay, so this is our expression number 2 which we are getting over here. Okay, so if we rearrange the expression like this, so we take minus of minus VSAT as plus VSAT, and over here we write this plus VSAT first. So T is equal to, we are just rearranging the terms of expression number 2. So over here, okay, so over here we are just rearranging the terms. So capital T is equal to R3C1 natural log of VD1 plus VSAT upon VSAT minus beta VSAT. Okay, so we take VSAT common from the denominator. So in the denominator we have VSAT into 1 minus beta. Okay, now what we do is we divide the numerator and denominator by inside the natural log. So we have divided the numerator and denominator by VSAT. So what do we have over here? We have capital T is equal to R3 into C1 natural log of numerator is 1 plus VD1 upon VSAT divided by 1 minus beta. So what we have done again, we have divided the numerator and denominator inside the natural log by VSAT. Okay. Now, if we consider one fact, normally VSAT is a very high value, close to BCC, and VDON is a very low value, around 0.7, not more than that. So zero point 0.7 is very much lesser compared to, if a supply voltage is around plus 15 or minus 4, minus 15, the VSAT value is close to that. So your VD1 we consider to be very, very small compared to that VSAT value. So this equation can be approximated as follows. So here the term VD1 upon VSAT is negligible. So we have only one in the numerator. So T is approximately given by R3 into C1 into natural log of 1 divided by 1 minus beta, where beta is given by R1 divided by R1 plus R2. I hope that this point is clear. Okay. Now next is what do we substitute? We this is a final formula, approximated formula, but we can have a one more version of it. So over here we substitute the value of beta as R1 upon R1 plus R2, and we get the modified formula as P is given by approximately equal to R3 into C1 natural log of R1 plus R2 divided by R2, and which we can write it finally in the form. So T is given approximately by R3 into C1 into natural log of 1 plus R2 upon R1. Now in this design, if we consider R1 and R2 as same, so let me go back to the diagram. So here it is. This is my R1, R2 and R3 over here, C1 capacitor over here. Okay. So if we consider R1 is equal to R2, we get the pulse width T as approximately given by R3 into C1 into natural log of 1 plus 1, that is natural log of 2. If you work out in a calculator, that will be around T will be given by now approximately natural log of 2 is around 0.693. So we can say that the output pulse width of a monostable multivibrator using op-amp, if R1 is equal to R2, is given by T is approximately equal to 0.693 into R3 into C1. So as you can see, the output pulse width is totally dependent upon the R3 value and the C1 value. So hence we have derived the expression for the output pulse width, this pulse width T. So it depends upon the external components R3 and C1 in case of a monostable multivibrator. Okay. Now we move on to the next topic. Some important points about the monostable multivibrator. So let me go back to this expression over here. Yeah. So yeah, this is my circuit diagram, and let me keep it available over here for some time. Let me reduce this to 20. Okay, so the monostable multivibrator, the very first important point is it should not be triggered again until the capacitor C1 has been recharged to VD1. Otherwise, the resulting output pulse will be shorter than the normal. Okay, so what does this mean? Let us go back to the waveform and understand. What we are trying to say over here is, I think it has become very small. Yeah, so I think all these four waveforms are clear. Let me try to increase it to 12. Yeah, I think all these four waveforms are clear. So what we are saying is the monostable multivibrator should not be triggered again until the capacitor C1 has been recharged to VD1. Okay, so here over here. So until this capacitor C1 is recharged to the value of VD1, you know, till VD1, we should not apply a trigger pulse. So here we have applied the trigger pulse over here. So what we are saying is the monostable multivibrator, we should not apply the trigger pulse until this capacitor has been recharged to VD1 value. Okay, so that will result in a shorter value of T. So which is not desirable. We will not have a total control over it. So that's why it's desirable that only after the capacitor has recharged to the value of VD1, after that you can apply a trigger pulse. So that is the first point. So this recharging time of this capacitor, so this period over here, from minus B sat over here, that is -6 till again zero point 0.7. So this period over here is called as a capacitor recovery period. Okay, and the capacitor recovery time is given by the formula. Now this derivation is not there for you. We can directly remember. So T, recovery time, we can write it as R3 into C1 and into natural log of VCC minus beta VCC divided by VCC minus VD1. It can be also be written as follows. T recovery is given by R3 into C1 into natural log of 1 plus beta divided by 1 minus VD1 upon VCC. This is just a manipulation of the above formula only. Where VCC is the supply voltage, VD1 is the diode voltage drop, which is ranging from zero point 0.6 to zero point 0.7 volts, and beta is given by R1 upon R1 plus R2. Okay, I hope that this point is clear now. Okay, so this was about the capacitor recovery period. So this was the capacitor recovery period over here. Okay, whenever the capacitor voltage again charges from minus beta Vsat value to plus VD1 value. Okay, now let's talk about this in this diagram. If you see in the monostable multivibrator, initially we have something called as a RC differentiator circuit. So let us concentrate our attention over here. So RC differentiator circuit, what it does is we have a negative trigger pulses over here. So these are the negative trigger pulses which are like this. From let's say it's going from 0 to minus VCC. Okay. So this will change the state at a negative, it's like a negative edge trigger pulse. So what does the RC differentiator circuit will do? So RC differentiator will differentiate this negative going pulse and the output will be a very short duration negative spikes. So this is the job of this RC differentiator circuit C2 and R4. Okay. Now I hope that this point is clear. Now we'll go into details one by one why we require this RC differentiator circuit. So let me maximize this PDF now. Okay, I hope that these points are clear. Let me bring it to 20. Okay, so this RC differentiator circuit is useful in producing a negative going spike, as you can see over here, from a rectangular or a square input pulses. So what is the requirement? So to order to ensure that the op-amp monostable circuit has a good negative trigger signal, which starts at the timing period on the leading edge of the negative going pulse, and also to stop any false triggering of the circuit when it is in the stable state, we require a RC triggering circuit. So that's what the requirement is. And the basic RC triggering circuit output waveform is the what does the differentiator circuit do? The output wave is the derivative of the input voltage with respect to time. So this is what is exactly going to happen over here. Let us concentrate on this now. So the basic differentiator circuit output voltage will be the derivative of the input voltage with respect to time. So over here the input pulse is changing from 0 to minus VCC, very short duration, maybe around 10 milliseconds. So the capacitor C2 begins to charge exponentially. Okay. So here is my capacitor C2 over here. C2 and R4 we have. So the capacitor will charge instantaneously, exponentially. So the capacitor voltage is initially 0, let's say. So the differentiator output will suddenly jump from 0 to minus VCC, which will produce a negative spike like this. Okay, and then it decays exponentially as the capacitor charges up. So this is the exponential decay which is happening. Okay, so that's how we got from a negative going pulse to a negative going spike in case of a RC differentiator circuit. Okay, now let us move on to the next part. So point number E is The rule of thumb, that is for a RC differentiator circuit to produce a good sharp narrow spikes, the time constant which is given by R4C4, R4C2. Now this is R4 and C2 should be at least 10 times smaller than the input pulse width. Okay. So for example, if the input trigger pulse is 10 millisecond, then 5 times R4 C2 time constant should be less than around 1 millisecond. Okay. So what does that mean is that means is that this pulse, if this negative trigger pulse is around 10 milliseconds, this should be around the negative spike will be around 1 millisecond, so 10 times smaller. So that's what we have written over here. Okay. The last part is what's the advantage of using a differentiator circuit is that any constant DC value or any slowly varying signal will be blocked. I know. Let me go back to the circuit over here. Okay, so this is my main, monostable multivibrator circuit. So the advantage of using such a differentiator circuit formed by C2 and R4 is that any constant DC voltage or a slowly varying signal will be blocked, allowing only rapidly varying trigger pulses to initiate the monostable timing period. I hope that this point is clear. So again, I repeat, the advantage of this differentiator circuit is that any constant DC value or a slowly varying signal will be blocked by this differentiator circuit, and it will be only allow only rapidly changing fast changing trigger pulses, because we know that differentiation of a constant is basically zero, so it will block that. Okay, and it will only pass whenever the signals are changing very fast. Okay, so these are the key points we take it, why we require a differentiator circuit, that is RC differentiator circuit. And with this, we have come to the end of today's session. That is, we have derived successfully the output pulse width for a monostable multivibrator. And this pulse width T is given by this formula. That is, if we consider R1 and R2 are same, the T will be approximately equal to 0.693 R3 into C1. Okay, so next we will start that's it for today's lecture. Next we'll begin with some other topic using op amp. So until then, have a good day and thank you.